Hi everyone, welcome to the channel.
Hi everybody, welcome to the channel. Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome to Dred FX Custom Paint for Beginners. We are doing shading today. I'm going to take you through some little demos on some shading, on what to do, how to hold the brush, distances and things like that. Now you're wondering what this is. It's a new trial they're doing and it's a sort of shock therapy. Because in yesterday's episode I flaked out. They're trying this now, so you'll probably see me through the video. It just gives me a little belt now and again, and my voice probably could change. So things that you're going to need for this project today is a airbrush, nothing fancy. We're using a 0.2, you can use a 0.5, whatever you've got to hand. So I'm going to be using the Krios PS 270 0.2. This one's the one with the Mac valve. I've got a little bit of blue golden high flow acrylics mixed with a little bit of water. Now shading, when it comes to your pictures, as you can see we've got a grayscale eye. Now this is on the channel how I painted this, so if you wanted to go over and have a look at this, I'll pop the link in the screen now so you can check that one out. That is a beginner's class. Now I do a lot of grayscale work. I tend to enjoy that more than colour. I can do colour, but I've sort of steered back onto the grayscale because I really like doing the grayscale. Now when it comes to shading on pieces of artwork, I've seen some people's arts where they go in and they tend to go dark too quick. They tend to put the blacks in straight away on say a grayscale and it just darkens off too quickly and can look very dark on all the edges and the lines. Now when I do grayscale I always go in light, always start light. It's always good to start light on colour as well. Find your lightest tone and work from your lightest tone up. And when you're looking at shading and pieces on images, there's always a lighter tone that starts off underneath and then your darks sort of come into it. So these ones go dark and then they're coming out, they're lighter as they're coming round to this here. So I always start, it's always recommended, start with your lightest tone first. Pick the lightest one on the picture. So if you're looking at your piece of artwork and you're looking round, you can go and say, well that's the lightest tone. Use that lightest tone on everything first and then start to work to your darks. That's what I find sort of works for me best. Going that way, go light to dark. Now it all goes down to distances when you're doing shading as well with the brush, because you can shade up close and you can shade on distance. So if you want the soft tones that come round and fade out, you're backing more off with the brush and you're just flicking up and just getting them softer tones there. And when you want to do some darker shading, you're moving in closer. They're just checking, they do little tests now and again. So yeah, you can go closer on your shading to get darker tones. Another thing that I like to do as well, which is really useful when shading, in pictures like photorealistic pictures, not everything is sharp. People tend to sharpen all their artwork up and do every line sharp. When you look at something that's natural, there is sharp and soft lines in a piece of artwork. It's not all sharp. Nature's not everything sharp, it's all, and it's not symmetrical. Everything's random, sharp lines, soft lines. So when you're looking on the eye, there are sharper edges and there's softer edges. Now, to get these sort of sharp and soft edges, you can use shields where you can move in, and when you want to shade, you can shade off that shield, which will give you that real nice crisp sharp edge where you need it, and then that soft fade out coming off of that sharp line. So making shields for your artwork as you go along. If you were doing this eye, you could cut out a circle to do the center of the eye, put that on and just tack that in place and then work inside that circle, and then you'll be surprised when you move that away how sharp, and then you can do all your soft edges inside, but you get that real crisp sharp edge that pops off your piece of artwork. As I say, if you do everything too sharp, it just looks too false. But if you add the sharp and the soft together, it makes for a better picture, guys. So that's the one we've done in, it's a beginner's class. It is on the channel, so you can nip over and you'll see how I paint that. I'll talk you through that piece of artwork. So we'll do some little circles. Always go to circles. And when you're doing shading, on a picture, you'll have a light source. So look at your piece of artwork first and find out where your light source is coming from. So your light source could come on these circles, could come in like this way, could come from the top, could come face on. And you'll see that in a piece of artwork. Just look for the, if you've got a face, look for the lightest shade. Pinpoint the lightest shade first, and that will be where your light source is coming in. And you'll see it'll come in and it'll either cast a shadow over that side, coming down. It'll be square on, so you have a shadow to the back. So if you study that first and find out where the light source is, and then you can start your shading to adapt to that. So you know all your whitest points and your brighter points are where the light source is coming in, and then the opposite side to that will be where your shadows are, and then your tones start to go darker, and that's where your shading will come in, and you can start doing light passes and just work from that light to dark. It's working from the light to dark and getting the darker edges last. That's what I say in a piece of artwork. Do all your darks last. That's what works for me when we paint. So I've got a bit of blue in the airbrush. We're running about 20 odd psi, about 22, 23. I'll just knock that down a bit. Okay, to take the crown cap off. Oh, I'm honoured I'm allowed to work with the crown cap off. So we'll take the crown cap off. Now, if you are working with the crown cap off, be careful, guys, because your needle's exposed. You can go too close to your artwork, dink your needle, and you'll bend it. And always be careful and check your tip dry, because that will happen with acrylics if you're using acrylics more so than solvent. So we'll do this circle here. Now we're going to go about 2.5 to 3 inches away from the piece of paper. Now in the last episode of this, I was showing you like lines on getting your point to point. So if you've watched that one and you've sort of mastered and studied that, this is the sort of technique we're going to be using, is on and off the trigger. So you are going to get your lines like this. In fact, I'm going to turn that pressure down a little bit more. So we're going to do a light source as if the light source is coming this way. So this would be your brightest point, this would be your darkest point, and you would cast a shadow underneath that sphere there, that way. This would be lighter here, this would be darker here. Now we can start from the bottom bit first. So this is where your line comes into play. So a nice soft line there, so that's darker here, a bit lighter there. And then we can start to shade in the actual sphere itself. So we're going darker on this edge and just bringing it lighter. As we come towards this point where the light source is, we're backing off with the airbrush and we're just toning it lighter. And then when we come closer to this edge, just here, we're getting darker. Now here's where you can use your shield. Put it up against your artwork and just darken off and crisp that edge up. So we've gone dark, and it makes the sphere look more oval when you're coming round like that. So if you've got a little bit more, get your shield. Like that, move it round. So we're going to go a little bit darker at the bottom. like that. And you've got your light source coming in, so your bright white is at the top, and then when it comes round, it's starting to cast the shadow, and you're starting to get your shading coming round and coming round. We can drop a little bit darker on this edge. And just the underneath. Like that. So nice and simple. You've got your light source coming in, so always check your light source on your piece of artwork, where it's coming in. It makes life a lot easier, and then you start to understand the pieces of artwork that you're looking at. And when you start to break down images, because people can look at an image and they get overwhelmed by it because it's so detailed, but if you just break it down to simple shapes like this, half moons, squares, triangles, paint the shapes, and the picture will take care of itself. If you concentrate on all them intricate shapes on that piece of artwork and master your shading on that artwork and see where the shades are, they're just shapes, guys. And if you paint all the shapes, forget about the picture, just paint all them little shapes, and then it just suddenly all comes together. It's a really weird feeling when you're painting and you're concentrating, when you're doing real detailed and photorealistic work, you're concentrating on something that's an area sort of like this, a sort of tiny little area, and there's loads and loads of little shapes. It's like looking at an image when you blow an image up and it's pixelated and you see all the little pixels that make that image, and when you stand back and move away from it, the image comes tighter. It's a similar sort of thing. You're sort of blowing that image up in front of you, you paint all them little shapes, do all them little shading techniques in them areas, and then when you move away and stand back, the picture just comes alive and it all comes together. And it helps you looking at an image, and like people look at images, artists, and go, oh, how do you paint that? I was the same. How on earth do you paint that? But breaking it down that way, paint all the shapes, study your shading and where your light sources are coming in and where your shadows are, master them, and pictures become easy to do. Portraits become easier to do. So we'll do another one just here, and we'll change the light source, so we'll come in at a downwards. So we're going to go down, so our light source is going to come this way. So you can use a shield, you could drop this at the bottom, and do a line like that. Then you could get your shield like that, and go in a little bit of freehand. Nice and simple, darken that bottom off. And as you can see, I'm backing off, I'm backing away from the paper, and when I want to get that darker line, I'm doing the same on-off technique, darkening that bottom up, just starting to back off, and it gives you that nice, softer fade coming to the top. So we've got the drop shadow at the bottom, dark, bit lighter at the sides, and I've just gone over the edges here. And this is what I mean by, if you're doing a circle like this, it's a ball, if you put that to your piece of paper first and work within that cutout, that stops all your overspray coming to the outer of that sphere there. And this is what I mean by sharp lines, soft lines. We've got a little bit of soft overspray here. If this was on like a dark background, you wouldn't see this so much. Because we're on white, you'll see this. But use shields and masking techniques when you can. If you want that sharp line, if you want that soft line, just remember you can use a shield, hold it against, and just keep all your overspray in the area where you're working. So that's a down one. So we've got the shadow to the bottom, our light source is from the top, we've got this drop shadow here, that's your light source this side, we've got the dark here, the drop shadow there, and then you can just go on. We can do one that way, we could do one looking square on, so you'd see a light source, it'd be light here and just start to fade off and be a little bit darker there. We could go on this way and have the dark here, the light source coming there. So it's just a little technique just to show you a bit of shading. If you need shields, a good way of doing shields if you're working on your piece of artwork, if you've got a image, a face you're looking at, tracing paper is a good one just to put up against and draw the line that you need on the face or whatever you're painting. Take that away and then duplicate that to a piece of cardboard. So that could be part of a chin where you could hold that up, and you know you need the bottom edge of that jawline here needs to be darker and just roll round. So you're getting that sort of roll effect there where you're going dark at the bottom of the chin edge and then you're fading round. But always start light, guys. If this was on a grayscale portrait for me here, I would start with a very light grey, like a number 7 value, and I'd do all that in that tone first and then work to like an 8 or a 9, a darker value, and drop that over the top of the edge of this one. So you get that 2-tone fade, not just having one colour fade going across, you can blend out 2, and it's just blending your shades nice and soft. Always go light, don't go straight in and do this where you go too dark in, you continue it dark and you're just getting a solid band and there's no soft shade to it. You need that transition going across from dark to light, just nice and soft. That's why you should always work soft with an airbrush. That's what it's about, going in really light, build your layers up. Build your layers up nice and soft and work along. That's why in the picture of the eye there was probably 3 or 4 different shades that I was using in the grayscale, and you're just working light to dark. It's like the one where I did my car, the video on my car, that's on the channel, where I was painting the pieces of artwork on the sides. I just picked a nice light tone first. I had like a mapped outline in pencil, sort of like this. You've got your circle, so you know what you're working to. You know you need to keep all your paint in within that area. Similar, same thing when you've got a portrait. If you've got a portrait lined out, you know the areas where you've got to work into, and you can start working in them areas, doing your soft shades. So I hope you've enjoyed this video on shading. Nice simple one, guys, little ones to practice like this. Shapes, just draw out some random shapes, whether it be circles, squares. Pick your light source, point a light source, and it's even good to, if you've got a torch and you stand that up on a table and point a torch at it and move the torch round at different angles, you will see where your shadows come off of what you want to paint. So you can hold that up, point a torch at it, you've got your light source here, and you'll see where it casts the shadow. That's casting a shadow now here, because we've got a lot of light from this side, so it's hitting it here, and you're casting the shadow here. And that will just show you which way light sources come in and how they cast shadows. And when you move on to colour, all your reflections are not, and shadows are not grey or black. Everybody tends to shade things dark. They go too dark. If I'm doing a grayscale, I will always shade in like either, if I'm doing I wanted a darker, I'll use a transparent, and you instantly get that effect with a transparent than hitting it sort of like an opaque sort of here, and drop your transparency in. As I say, when you're doing colour, all your reflections and shadows are colours. They're not just flat tones like transparent blacks or transparent greys. They are actual colour reflections coming down and across. So they're things you have to bear in mind when you start moving on to colour. It's a lot more involved, but once you master it and master your colours and mixing, we'll do some colour mixing and matching in another episode. But this one's just been a basic bit of shading for you. I could go on and on and on with this, but I'm just going to keep it short, simple for you guys to pick up. Practice your spheres like this. Cut out some circles. You can hold your mask up, just masking tape it to the piece of paper, work within the circle, pick your light source coming on an angle, and just practice your darks to lights, your distances with your brush. It'll give you trigger control as well, because it's involved, because you're getting trigger control, bringing out very, very little paint. Dial your air pressure in and start working on your distances, and just practicing these, moving around, different ways light sources coming in, will help you out, guys. It really will when it comes to a piece of artwork. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you can join me in the next one. Back at Manor House. This thing is doing my nutting.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video.
Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget, if you're new to the channel, click that subscribe, press that notification, and I will see you in the next one, guys. Thanks for watching. Can I take this off?
Off now. Right. Yes. Yes, that was annoying.